Hi, I'm Ruth Samalo, one of the featured programmers, and it's my great pleasure to have you here for the Q&A of Beautiful Something Left Behind. And we have director Katrine Philip and Katrine Sahlström, the producer. And I would like to ask you both, how did you get involved in this incredible project? And I want to ask you later about your production company that you built together, because I think it's really important for us independent filmmakers to build ourselves a team. And I think seeing all the films that you've been working in together, I think there is something very special about the way that you both approach documentaries. But tell us a little bit about the origin story of this incredible project.
Katrine, will you begin?
Well, yeah, I think it started with Katrine wanting to do something about grief. Correct me if I'm wrong, but then at least at some point I heard a This American Life podcast, one episode about a similar place to the one we're depicting in the film, called The Sharing Place in Utah. And that just struck us both as something really special, where kids were speaking very, very openly about death and about grief. And we decided that we should look more into how you do it in the United States with children grieving. And we contacted that place and did other research in the United States as well, and found out that there were many places like this. And then we found Good Grief in Morristown, and we decided that was a good place to start the research. And then Katrine called them and went very quickly after that, and found out that was really the place we wanted to be, and delve into this.
Yeah, they were very, open and invited us in from the very beginning. But I think that this question is sometimes a bit difficult, because I don't think that we as directors always know why we are going after a topic. And for me, it's often something that I discover through the film when I'm filming and when I'm meeting my protagonist. And normally I get an idea of something, I hear something, I read something, I listen to a conversation on the train, or in this case, Katrine heard this episode on This American Life. And I think that during the filming, I often find out that it actually makes complete sense for me to dive into this specific topic, because in a way it is always linked to something that I've experienced in my life, or it's just, I think, often subconscious for me what to choose. And what happened in this film, while we were filming, my dad became sick and he died, and suddenly the film also became a journey for me into my own grief. So I was in a way experiencing my grief, and while I was experiencing the grief of the families and the children in the film. So I think we kind of merged together, and my own life and the life of the film merged together. And I think that's when everything is, I like when it is like that. Of course, it was so very difficult and hard to lose my dad, and I was just very happy that I had the film to, in a way, lean on, I think.
I think something you referred to as, I mean, you didn't use the word, but I'm going to use it, intuition, as something that documentary filmmakers, filmmakers, artists in general, but I think in terms of documentary filmmaking, there is a very strong component in some other sense, kind of like guiding you to the right project. And I'm also a filmmaker, and I understand that there is reasons that are not cognitive that lead you to certain circumstances for you to go on a journey with the film that you're making. And in this particular film, Katrine, you also work with your husband, right, as a cinematographer, and he also has been through experiences of grief as a child. So in a way, I think that we find the tools that we need oftentimes through our work, because the separation between work life and private life is not so clear. And this film is a particular good example of that, right? Because you move with your partner and your children to New Jersey, all the way from Copenhagen.
Yes.
And then what happens? Like, tell us a little bit, because I think oftentimes these tales of like the life of your professional life invading your personal life is told in a negative way, but I think in this case it's very positive. It's the opposite, right?
Definitely. Doing documentary films is absolute a very huge part of my family's life, and has always been. You know, we have been traveling with our children all over the world, and for some years ago, we decided, my husband and I, because as you said, my husband is a cinematographer, and we have always traveled in different directions, because he has been traveling a lot while filming a lot of different kind of films, and I've been traveling the other direction and film my film. And then we decided that we needed to do something together, otherwise we will never be together as a family, and we need to bring the kids too. So we arranged with a school here in Denmark. Luckily they are very flexible, a bit more flexible I think in the States, but it was okay for us to bring them while we were filming. So and then because we wanted to be closer to the children in this film, because it was very difficult to travel back and forth over the Atlantic all the time to film them, because we just wanted to be there when they were ready to be filmed, because they were kind of in this situation, and in very difficult and hard situation they were in. So we wanted to be closer to them, and we decided to leave Copenhagen and go there. And you know, the kids, we have a 16-year-old daughter and a 7-year-old boy, and they were with us, you know, when we were filming, and we trained them in a way, staying behind the camera and be quiet when we were filming, and when we were not filming, we were just all together with the families, and our children were playing with the children in the film. So we all became friends in a way, and it was really a fantastic experience for the whole entire family. Yeah.
And that probably, do you think, in terms of like the result in the film, like this amazing intimacy and trust that you generate with, you know, the children and their families, if that was, you know, something that you can't put in a production plan, is like, move your family and have your children become best friends with the children of your subjects. That would sound crazy, but yet that's what kind of like allowed for this beautiful film to exist in this like very raw, but like you know, if I'm allowed to say that, maybe not sentimental way, because I think the kids have this matter of fact way of going about grief and sadness that is very enlightening for us, I think. So can you tell us a little bit about the production, kind of like what was in your mind in terms of what kind of like, did you wanted to get interviews? Did you wanted to get to know the characters better? Like, how long did you film for and how did you structure the kind of materials that you wanted to get? Because I also think that's something that we're always very afraid of, is to see any kind of therapy process going on, and yet you're like so invited into these spaces.
Yeah, well, for me, filming is about collecting fragments of life, and grief is not a linear process. It's like there's a in the end of the film, a mother saying that it's like grief is like waves, and I think it's a very beautiful way to describe it. And we also wanted to implement this kind of structure in the film, because we didn't want it to end. We didn't want, you know, the film, of course we wanted the film to end, and also to feel that the kids were safe and they were, you know, they were taken care of, but we also wanted the grief to be a kind of something that continues, because grief will never go away. So that was, we used the theme to be a part of making the film and the structure of the film. And you had a lot of questions in one question, but about the production side of it, we filmed for a year on and off, and we stayed there for 4 months with my family. So we had 4 intensive filming months. And I know from Katrine that it was pretty, we didn't have all the funding in place. So, but I just wanted to, I said to Katrine, I think we need to go. And, as filmmakers, we just know that we need to do something. And when we know that, we just need to go. And we knew that we have maybe for 1 month. And I was like taking my whole entire family, and they were starting school in the States as well. So it was pretty big move for us, but we just like crossed our fingers, and Katrine said, okay, let's do it, but and try to finance while you are there. I don't know if you have anything to add, Katrine.
No, but well, that's completely correct. I guess in that way you also have to be intuitive as a producer when you do documentaries and believe that it will all end up in a good way. And it did. Certainly, it was a very good decision to do it like that. Yeah. So it was like on and off shooting for about a year, and then this very long period of shooting where they were really close to the characters. And yeah.
And you formed together a good company pictures, which I think is a great example of a collaboration between producer minds and creative director minds, and working together, and perhaps to allow yourselves to make films like this, where certain production decisions can be different than in
Absolutely.
other contexts.
Yeah. Absolutely. It helps that we are both our own bosses, so we decide, of course, if we want to take that risk or not. I don't think, I don't know, if we were working for a big studio, maybe they would have had the funding, so it wasn't a problem. But otherwise, I don't think we would have been allowed to do it like this if somebody else was deciding than ourselves. So that's a good thing for us as well. Besides the very close collaboration we have on all the films we do. And also about the production side, I wanted to mention Katrine's close collaboration with our editor as well, because while she were those 4 months in New Jersey, she edited a bit herself, and then we kept discussing. She kept sending rushes to me and the editor so that we could follow the different characters and discuss which developments we wanted and so on. So that's also something Katrine is fond of doing always with her films, to edit as we go, that makes it much more precise what you're going after in the later stages of the production, of course.
And how did you end up with this amazing group of characters as your main characters? Because we see a lot of different children, but we stay mostly with Peter, who is 6, and like he's stuck with his uncle CJ, who is, I'm gonna be forever in love with him. We have Nora and Nolan and Nikki and Kimi and Michaela. And how did you end up with those particular kids for your main stories? Did you film more children? What was the process of like selecting whose stories were going to rise up?
I almost all the children we filmed are in the film. Of course, there's a lot of children at Good Grief that are not in the film, but our main characters are almost all of them. And it was a very close collaboration with Good Grief. They introduced us to the families, and they I asked for families, with different backgrounds, different kind of laws, and it was such a great collaboration with Good Grief and the CEO Joe Primo. So, and they really helped us, and they just, as I said, opened the doors, and they had almost no um, we could almost film everything at Good Grief, and I think the film here has no kind of adult experts, and I really that was very important for me. I wanted to look at grief from a child's perspective and not from adults' perspective, and I really, because I really feel that sometimes the children are more connected to their emotions. They are sincere, they are open, and for them it's not a taboo or something that you cannot talk about, death and grief. So it was really inspiring for me to just focus on the children.
Yeah, and I think it's really important, because it's not only a grief positive kind of film, but it's a film that wraps griefs around life, and ultimately, the children are working at life as much as they are working at grief, and that's, I think, a really important message in any kind of like grief environment, that ultimately is about love and and appreciation of life. So I think in that way, I don't think any film that you can make with adults or from the perspective from adults could be as powerful as this one. So I think it's a brilliant perspective, not to have any adults perspective or any experts. That was really great. And yeah, and also it ends in a very positive note. I feel like I've seen a lot of films about the difficulties of loss and the loss of family and the vulnerabilities of it. But I think in this film, we really go through a very, it's intimate, it's vulnerable, it's emotional, but it doesn't kind of like, it doesn't do any emotional porn in a way. It stays well away of that. So in a way, it allows you to watch it, connecting intimately, but not just capitalizing on the pain.
That was very important for us.
Yeah, so it's a brilliant film. Like any well, also I wanted to ask you, Katrine, just because I can't help myself, in terms of production, you work with Lars von Trier for so long, and has working in fiction and working with somebody like him, kind of in terms of like working between the film nonfiction film world and fiction film world, what are the things that liberate you, like now that you're working in the nonfiction world?
I think there's well, it all comes down to the good story, right? And filmmaking. So in many ways, it's very similar to do fiction and documentary, but then again, on the production side, it's not at all. And I really love the sort of the liberty of doing documentaries, as this film is a very good example of that. We are just a very small group of people working together on the film, making it happen and taking the risks and doing the films. And then also because for me, it stays creative for so much longer in the process. Of course, it's very narrow to look at fiction just as you write a script and then you go out and do it. There's so much more to it than that. But doing documentary, it's so many things can still happen in the editing, which is just such a fantastic experience. And also all the gifts you get from when on the shoots that you could never imagine or plan or know about before it actually takes place. That to me makes documentaries more fun to work with. And yeah.
And Katrine, just to finish, what do you think we should learn from these children? Because we all have people in our lives that have died or that are going to die. We ourselves are going to die. And it's something we should be talking about a lot more. If you want the audience to walk away into their daily lives with something from this film, what would that be?
For me, it's important that we are open about it, and I think we can learn a lot from the children. And I also think that we, in this specific time that we are in right now, I had this feeling about the end scene in the film. I should not tell you so much about it, but it's just like I think it's very powerful, and I think we are at this big field with one of the families, and there are hundreds of people around them, and everyone is setting up lanterns in the dark in this field, and it was so beautiful, and I cried through the entire time we filmed it, and it was like it was not planned to be the ending scene when we filmed it, but it felt so magical being there. It felt like there was a lot of feeling of loneliness, but it was also a feeling of being together as humans. And I think that in this moment, it also reflects the pandemic, the current situation we are in now, where so many people feel isolated and alone, but still feel kind of a strong togetherness. And I think that we should be more, we should be more open, and we should like not be afraid of talking about grief and talking about death. And one of the worst things when my dad died was the silence of people not knowing what to say when they met me. And I wanted this film to, make us all be more brave when we encounter people that have lost. And I think, to be open and to be not afraid. And I think the children in the film can really help us with that.
Well, thank you so much, both of you, for this wonderful gift of a film. And I hope to see it everywhere so we can start many conversations about love and life and grief and loss. Thank you so very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.